ado, but I am just filled with joy, just surrounded by all of my plants, and I cannot wait to share a little plant haul and my personal plant collection with you all, and just share some tips along the way of how I have kept these beautiful babies alive for some of them years. I am by no means an expert, but I just want to share the tips I've learned, and I know you guys will provide many tips as well, so we can have some plant lover discussions and sharing of tips in the comments down below. But I really am just so happy to see that the plant lover community is flourishing and growing, no pun intended. I feel like through the year 2022 and people just spending more time at their homes, they have just seen such a benefit and added little joy that comes with having indoor houseplants. So I love that and definitely want to spread that love as much as I can. And I personally always think it is so remarkable how plants improve our air quality and really just liven up the space. So highly suggest investing in some little plant friends. But let's just get right into my plant collection haul, and then I will, like I said, share some tips as I am sharing each individual plant. But at the end, I also want to share 2 natural plant fertilizers that you can kind of feed your little guys so they can get additional nutrients, because sometimes it is difficult for them to get all the nutrients they need, especially when they're living indoors, because you know they don't have their natural environment where they get those vitamins from the earth. So I just want to share those tips with you guys, but I'll do the fertilizers at the end. Okay, so I'm going to kick things off. You can't see it, it's out of frame, but I have a whole table right next to me of plants, and this one is my oldest cacti. I've had him for over 6 years, and he went to college with me. He, you know, moved back to my parents with me. He moved to my current apartment with me. He's been a lot of places, and he actually just started growing a lot this year. And unfortunately, I don't know the exact name of this plant, but he is a cactus, and I bought him from a local cactus farm. And you definitely don't want to touch him because he is spiky, but super easy to take care of. If you are new to plants, I definitely recommend succulents or cacti because they almost thrive on neglection. They don't need much water. They love sunlight because they are a desert plant, but they can do well in lower light and be adaptable. So highly suggest any sort of cacti when you're first starting out. Okay, this next cutie I actually got sort of recently, and this one is so fun. I actually need to add some bamboo supports because he's floppy, which is very fitting because the name of this cacti is bunny ear cacti. And I just think that truly they couldn't have picked a better name. And this, by the way, is not the scientific name. I will put the scientific names of the plants, you know, in words here because lots of them are very complex pronunciations and I just don't want to butcher them. So I'm going to be saying their nicknames. And again, this one's super easy to take care of. And I also got this from a local cactus farm, and I just water it about once a week, just a little bit. And he's really adaptable and super, super cute. Okay, next up, this is a great indoor house plant. This is a pothos, and there's lots of different variations of this plant. And I actually bought this one from IKEA, and I was super sad because when I first bought it, it looked pretty nice, but I had it for about a month and then it was getting super, super sad. It was just deteriorating and it looked very unhappy, and I was so confused because everyone says pothos are so easy to take care of, and honestly, I mean, I did take such good care of it, I like to think. So my theory is that it was just stressed and it kind of maybe was sitting in IKEA under the fluorescent lights for a long time, and you know, it just needed some tender love and care. So it almost died completely, but I just kind of kept being persistent. I didn't give up, and look at this. It is just growing like crazy. Every few days it's getting a new leaf. This just started happening, like where it really started flourishing this month, and like you can see here, another leaf is growing at the end, and I love how long it is getting. I think that is just so beautiful. And I like to think that the natural fertilizer is helping it flourish so much. And typically this time of year, you know, in the warmer spring and summer months, plants do typically grow more than the winter and fall months. So that could be it. There's lots of different factors, but I am just so happy that he didn't die after I had my little scare, and he is doing very well. Also, how brave am I? I'm just putting these plants on my white linen sheets and duvet cover on this floppy bed, but you know, if they make a mess, they make a mess. It's okay. All right, here is the next one. This is just a cute little basil herb plant, and it's so great because the basil plants, you can find them at your local grocery store most of the time for about $3 or $4, sometimes maybe even less, and that's how much like a little packet of basil costs if you get the fresh basil leaves. So you might as well just get the plant. These are so easy to take care of, but they are thirsty. The basil plants are so thirsty. I water mine sometimes every day, but at least every other day. When I go out of town, it's fine. It might die out a little bit, but it usually recovers pretty well. And basically all I do is I just pull off leaves to harvest it and use it for cooking or whatever it may be, and then they just grow little new leaves. So that's fantastic. And when you see your basil leaf growing these kind of more wood-like stems, that just means it's maturing. So if you are using your basil plant how I am, where you just want to harvest the leaves for cooking, you just want to make sure you take off the leaves every few days, or else it'll just keep maturing and these stems will turn into kind of a bark-like stem, and then it'll actually flower instead of producing the leaves. So I actually need to harvest mine right now because I have so many leaves, and I love to make fresh pesto with this. It's just absolutely amazing. And eventually when we have an outdoor space and I can have a garden, they apparently thrive when you put them in the earth, put them in the soil, and they grow like crazy. So I can't wait for that, but for now, this is absolutely perfect. Okay, next up we have our snake plant. This is also a very common and popular indoor houseplant. They, again, are really tough and they can thrive in low light and minimal water, so these are another great starter plant. And these snake plants actually prefer a more dry environment, so there's no need to mist this one. But again, it's really adaptable, so if you do mist it along with your other plants, like, it's not very dramatic. So this one's fabulous, and I got this one from Bloomscape. And here's another one I also got from Bloomscape, and this is a Hoya, and this is another very tough and adaptable plant. And for this one, you just want to water it when the soil is completely dry. Like I said, it's tough, it's adaptable, and great for beginners because it really isn't that high maintenance. And I haven't had this one for very long, but it has a great reputation for being a wonderful indoor plant. And this one is actually from Bloomscape as well, and I bought them in a set, and this is actually called the Tough Stuff collection because all three of the plants I just shared are tough and adaptable and just great for apartment living, or just especially in the winter if you're not able to put your plants out in the humidity or get just fresh air. These are wonderful. So this is a ZZ plant, and this one also prefers a dry climate, so you don't need to mist this one either, and you don't need to water it too much, so it's just wonderful. And I'm excited to see this one grow. And this plant right here is actually my newest addition, and it's super special to me because my grandma actually gave it to me and she propagated this. So she took a clipping from one of her bigger plants and she grew this fabulous new one, and it is just beautiful. Unfortunately, I do not remember the name of it, so I texted my grandma this morning and I'll put the name in the bottom right here, but I love it. It's so unique looking. My grandma just texted me back and she said, I checked my houseplant book and Google. I think it's a type of Chinese evergreen. The leaves are so pretty. So glad you like it. So cute. So it's a Chinese evergreen. I just looked up pictures and it totally looks like that. And it's a tropical plant, so I'm gonna mist it and take great care of it. The leaves, like, they almost don't even look real. They're just such a beautiful pattern and so rubbery. And I love this one. And I have this really cute hanging planter that I got from the Opal House collection at Target. I actually don't know where I'm gonna hang this in my apartment. I might just wait until I move into our house soon, but I love it. And then just a few more. I have 3 behind me that are a little bigger, so I figured I will just keep them back there. But we have our Roadkill Cactus, which is getting so tall and lengthy. I need to add some bamboo stakes to prop it up because it's kind of floppy since it's so tall. I actually clipped it at the top a couple years ago, but it keeps growing taller and taller, which I love, but I just need to add more support for the poor thing because it's just like the leaning tower of cactus. And then I also have my White Birds of Paradise. It hasn't bloomed yet. I've only had it for about maybe 7 months or maybe 8 months. But it's really beautiful, and I'll insert a picture of what it will look like when it eventually does bloom. But even when it's not blooming, I just love how big and beautiful and lush the leaves look. And this is a tropical plant, so I do try to miss this one, and once I do have an outdoor space eventually, I will put this one along with my fiddle leaf fig out on the porch for a little while just so it can kind of get the beautiful Florida humidity because they are a tropical plant, like I said. And then the last one, which I feel like is always the star of the show, fiddle leaf figs have just grown so much in popularity, rightfully so. They're absolutely beautiful and just add such life to any space. And we've had our fiddle leaf fig for over a year now, and thankfully it stayed alive because these do have a reputation of being a little more finicky and kind of hard to manage or read because they are a little bit more of a plant diva. I mean, I will say it. So I was so excited this spring. I actually got some new growth because I haven't had much new growth with my fiddle leaf fig. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can best support its growth because I would love more leaves because it has dropped a few leaves. So I'm very happy that we do have a little bit new growth. It actually had 2 new leaves come in, but one of them didn't make it, but one of them is still growing strong. So hopefully it'll continue to grow, but these are so beautiful and I feel like they are becoming more accessible. I bought mine at a local nursery in downtown Orlando called Palmer's, so if you're looking for one, but even the big stores like Home Depot and Lowe's have been having them, and even Whole Foods, so just keep an eye out. But those are all my plants and I just love them all for their own special reason and can't wait to get more one day. I almost forgot about my Monstera. It's in the living room. I just kept it in there because it is quite large and I have a lot of floppy leaves, so I didn't really want to cart it all around. But it is so beautiful, another beautiful big leaf tropical plant, and I just love the detail of these leaves. They are so stunning and they kind of are a little flimsy, which I think is kind of quirky and fun, and I highly recommend this plant. It's definitely becoming more popular and it's easy to see why. As you are kind of figuring out how to water each plant, of course, you kind of can pick up as I was explaining each plant. They each have their own watering needs, so the best idea is just to look up the name of your plant and see exactly what kind of soil they prefer, if they kind of like that moist soil, consistent moist soil, or if they do kind of like a drier soil. That will kind of depend how frequently you want to water them, so you just gotta kind of do the individual research for each plant. But one great thing you can do is if you don't have a soil water meter, I personally don't, I just kind of stick my finger in and see and feel how wet the soil is, and that can be a good indication of if it needs water or not. And the leaves will really tell you so much as well. For instance, my White Birds of Paradise, the leaves were curling up sideways, and that wasn't telling me that it's very, very thirsty. And for the basil plant, they make it very obvious when they're thirsty because they will look like a sad, droopy mess. But then pretty much instantly, once you add water, the leaves will just perk up, and it is just so amazing to see. And I try to fertilize them once a month, and like I said, I'm so excited to share a couple natural fertilizers. Some people use coffee, and so they'll just dilute some coffee and water their plants that way. I personally haven't tried the coffee method yet, but it seems like it would make sense. So I want to do more research and try that eventually. But the ones I have been doing are using old banana peels and diluting that with water and letting that sit for 48 hours. And then I add that into my watering can and add a little bit more water if needed. And then I pour that over my plant's soil. And what the banana peels do is they actually give your plant some potassium, just like bananas give us potassium. I mean, these plants are living things just like we are, and so different foods and compost items will give them different nutrients. So I just think that is really, really neat. And I also have been doing the eggshell method. So basically you just put your eggshells in a food processor or a blender, or you can just crush them up super small, and then you just sprinkle them over your soil and then add your water on top of that. And the eggshells provide your plants with some calcium. So it's really neat and another great way to kind of reuse your food waste. So I love that and can't wait to try out some more natural fertilizers. And another important thing to do for your big leaf plants like the birds of paradise or the fiddle leaf fig is as you water and mist them, you want to make sure you wipe them down because they can catch a lot of dust. So you want to make sure, just for the cleanliness of your air quality, you're really swiping up that dust, but also you want to make sure that your plants don't have a lot of dust because your plants have little pores, and if it's covered by dust, they're not able to properly photosynthesize. So it kind of blocks the sun from getting in and the water. So definitely make sure you dust these, and I try to dust mine just once a week when I water them so that I don't forget, because it's crazy how quickly dust can collect. And another thing to keep in mind is sometimes the water quality can have an effect on your plants. So specifically when I mist my plants, sometimes I can notice that on the leaves this kind of yellowish film will kind of develop, and through some research I've realized that's because of just the chemicals in our tap water, because they add fluoride or just other sulfates sometimes. You just have to unfortunately kind of do some research on your water quality. And one idea I really love that I currently can't do now because I don't have an outdoor space, but I want to collect rainwater eventually and then water my indoor plants with rainwater, specifically when I mist, because I feel like that's just providing another natural experience for the indoor plants that aren't really having any contact with the outside world. So there's a great idea. And I just want to encourage you, if you haven't had the best luck with plants in the past, definitely give it another try. I believe everyone is capable of having a green thumb. Sometimes when you purchase a plant, unfortunately, it just might not be a healthy one. It might be on its last leg and not doing well, so it's not always your fault. And you know, the more practice you have taking care of them, the more little tips you kind of will develop and learn. I know I still have so much to learn, but practice makes perfect. And I don't think we'll ever perfectly understand plants, but we can learn all we can and just find joy in taking care of them and having them in our space. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you love your plants and are excited to get some new ones soon and try the natural fertilizers. But I love you guys so much and cannot wait to see you super soon. Bye!